this about typical, or is it usually louder than this? Pete, can you put your headset on? Oh, is this typical sound for it? Someone's turned down this volume too.
If you need to turn it down.
Test 1, 2. Good on the TV? Okay, you guys should be good. Someone had also turned it down. Someone had messed with that.
Is there any other laws?
Well, press with you. Stay all the way up.
I do that, I check that.
Quit playing with the knob,
That's the
Fred.
injection. Buds, don't press that. Don't mash that.
Other than that,
So it's struck.
like this way, you turn down this position, and that's going to be turned back up to the center.
So is there any of these?
Just need to walk them up. Put them in a case. Nobody can turn them.
Let's get the shimmer. Thanks, Tom.
I move to come back into session.
Carol, second. We have a motion and a second to come back into regular session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. So we'll get back on here and have the mayor start.
Are we ready? Are we good? Are you all ready? Yeah. Okay. For those who didn't hear, we're about to appoint a police chief. I'm not going to go back through all that I went through, but so if you'll come on up. I think if you'll just stand there across from me and raise your right hand after me. And if y'all need to move to get a better picture or want us to turn, we will. Good? Good? Okay. All right. I, Brett Hinch.
I, Brett Hinch,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to enforce and to uphold
to enforce and to uphold
all the laws of the Constitution
all the laws of the Constitution
of the United States of America,
of the United States of America,
the laws of the State of Ohio,
the laws of the State of Ohio,
and the ordinances of the City of Jackson.
and the ordinances of the City of Jackson.
I shall at all times
I shall at all times
abide by the rules and regulations
abide by the rules and regulations
of the Jackson Police Department
of the Jackson Police Department
and the City of Jackson.
and the City of Jackson.
You are hereby appointed as Chief of Police, Jackson Police Department. Congratulations. You will sign right there, and then I promise you all, he wants to say a few words. Right, Chief?
Sure.
Thank you all for coming. I didn't know most of you were coming. That was a huge surprise. But I think it shows everybody that I have a really, really, really awesome staff behind me that helped really boost us into having some success over the last 4 to 5 months. And I've got a great family that supports me. This has been, I can remember my interview back in 2004 for a dispatch job with then Chief Carl Eisnagel and Safety Director Brian Davis. I remember Brian Davis asked me, he said, what are your ultimate career goals? And a much less reserved me pointed at Carl and said, someday I hope to have this job, which I think kind of surprised him that I was so bold as to say that there. And so this has been a long time career goal of mine. This is not a retirement gig for me. This is not a coast to my retirement job. Not that it has been necessarily for, previous people, but when you get in a position like this, it comes with a lot of responsibility. And I feel like we can do a lot of good for the city of Jackson because I have such an amazing staff, I have a supportive administration, and a very supportive council up to this juncture. I've never seen all cylinders fire like they have been, and I think that really everybody should thank themselves who's in this room for contributing to the success the Jackson Police Department has. So thank you all. I appreciate it, and we'll be back to work tomorrow.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So, in the sign-in sheet, I believe we just have one person who signed in to speak, Mr. Entler. If you may have to turn the microphone around there, but would like to speak, and give you 3 minutes there, and bring you loose.
Okay. I was here a few weeks ago, and it's the same story, Southwest Bridge Street. We're still having the same issues, still a one-way street, and nothing's really changed in 5-6 weeks it's happened. I've been in contact with Mr. Swackhammer every week, and we're going to do a study. You know, he says every week we're going to do a study. He's contacted ODOT, he's contacted the county commissioner. I contacted the county commissioner. And you know, he does whatever he's told to, and he's trying to do his job. But we're not getting anywhere. I know things go slow sometimes, but when it concerns traffic, it should move faster. Potholes in the alleys, we're getting a lot of potholes in the alleys. Traffic's heavier now than it ever was in the alleys, because people's using the alleys to get in and out that way now. Let's see. He had emailed Ms. Miller about the getting a traffic study done, said he didn't have anybody he felt that qualified to do that. He told her that they'd put up put up signs to do this, and that the traffic flow seemed to be doing a lot better. Well, yes, if you're traveling State Street coming in and out, it does great. But if you live on Bridge Street or going in that area, you got to go around. I mean, it'd be the same deal if you come down to Main Street and turn to come up Main Street and take every traffic light out through Main Street. Traffic through town would flow great, but try and get off a side street in there. It just don't happen like that. So there's supposed to be some more here to speak tonight. Some of them had something going on through cheerleaders, and then it's like everything else. Last minute people bow out, but I'm not. And you know, limited access to our driveways. There's even a question about property value. One-way streets would make the property value less. There's a lot of issues about this. Nia, she has land for sale in that area. The area's coming up. It's looking better. Nia's helped some of the neighborhood getting, you know, and the city's helped get some of those houses tore down that was bad and things. But this one-way street's just not working out for everybody. And I've talked to, first off, I'm not a politician, so I didn't go citywide about this. I went around our neighborhood and talked to some of the people. And they felt the same way I did about this. However, a lot of them don't want to come up here and stand up here and be the fall guy. And there's an issue getting my camper in. Well, when I was here the last time, the chief of police talked to me, and he said if we need to, we'll get an officer out there and block the streets while you get your camper in the wrong way. That was accomplished today. I called him, he worked with me, and we was able, I called when I was coming off of 35, there was an officer sitting there waiting on me. He blocked State Street so I could legally and safely get onto Bridge Street to get my camper in that way. The streets are too narrow in town to come around. West Street would be the best bet. I don't know if any of you come down West Street or not, but if you do, with a 38-foot camper behind a truck, it's not good. The turn at Bridge Street's too sharp. The alley, you can't come in the alley, it's just too big. And that's the only way of getting it in there safely. And I don't know if there's something more behind this besides a traffic light. I don't know what the deal is. A three-way stop sign would work. If you come up with a sign to warn people about the traffic to get in there. I don't know. I don't know what it takes. The simplest way, the right way, is what we're asking before. But I brought a petition for the citizens around the area tonight to file with the council to see what we could get done.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Antler.
If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Questions from council? Any response to at this time?
Not at this time.
Please let us, if you'll
Okay.
bring that to me, I will
All right.
make sure that it is disseminated and
There should be 12 or 14 copies here. There are also 2 or 3 other copies with the emails. The originals on top.
all right. Thank you,
All right,
Mr. Antler.
thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Appreciate it. Thank you for coming. Next, we will move into the approval of the minutes. A copy you find in each of your packets. I hope you were able to look at them before the meeting. So any objections or corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, a motion, Ms. Colby, to accept. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Ondero, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. Next, we'll move into our committee reports. We'll begin with Mr. Ondero, Utility.
No report.
Thank you. Ms. Colby, Budget and Finance.
No report.
Thank you. Mr. Foster, Police, Fire, and Traffic.
No report.
Thank you. Mr. Peters, Service.
No report. I do have a question about the Rumpke recycling meeting that was supposed to take place last week or the week before. Just wondering how that went.
Yeah, I did meet with their representative. They are willing to give a quote for them, which is, I think, was what Mr. Bob had originally brought. They have done so in similar communities. Normally, they need at least 900 active participants to do so, and it would have come at a cost on a per resident basis. If there was less than whatever they determined the proper number is, the city would still be on the hook for any shortfall in that. He also we had conversation around they're interested in curbside as trash as well as recycling, and rolling it all into one package. If that's something that the service committee wants to have as a conversation, or the utility committee, excuse me, wants to have as a conversation, he would be willing to entertain at least some conversation around that. That'd be up to the utility committee to want to engage in that conversation.
Mr. Falk,
Yes. Go right ahead, Mr. Ondero.
would that be, would that mean that we would have to switch over to a curbside type system, where we'd have to have all consistent trash cans with, it would be on like an automatic load system? I don't know what they call that.
Well, you're correct. It's the larger cans, usually not on a weekly basis, usually every other week or once a month. Curbside recycling pickup was what he was kind of alluding that he had done in a couple other communities in the southeast area.
Other questions?
If I could maybe add just a little
Mayor?
bit there from what I take, and it seemed to me that if we were wanting Rumpke to do a curbside recycling, we'd have to contract with them to do all of the trash and not just a curbside recycling route.
Right, that's what I understand.
Such as Colton does.
Yeah.
So that's a lot different than just trying to add recycling to what we're doing.
Right.
So this one make that clear.
I mean, it would be worth listening to
It
what
would
they
be.
have to say.
I agree.
Because in end up costing less, so. I understand it's a utility, the recycling got bumped back to service, but throw the ball back over to the utility committee, but now that we can meet as a whole, I think we should at least hear what they have to say.
I agree, yeah. I would like to schedule.
To schedule?
Yes.
So who could help us facilitate bringing Rumpke in?
I can coordinate with them if council wants to provide a couple, or committee wants to provide a couple dates and times that I can offer up to them.
Mr. Ondero, what's your schedule look like?
I'm open. We can do. I don't know how long it's going to take to schedule something, but it would be a week be enough notice for them.
You want to try to run it right in front of the next council meeting, on the 28th?
That would be fine, 6 o'clock?
Is that acceptable to everyone?
Sure.
Okay. So will you just email us, Mr. Swackhammer, with, if that's a go?
Yes, I will. I'll reach out to Cindy and let her communicate with the council.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else?
That's all I had, thank you.
Next, we'll start auditor's report. Mr.
No
Reed.
report.
Mr. Kirby.
No report.
Chief Hinch.
Jackson Police Department got a new chief recently. I did put, I updated the February statistics, it should be in your binder. What that doesn't tell you is that we're becoming a more multi-dimensional agency. We're taking on some bigger investigations. I'm not going to go into detail because some things aren't really just meant for everybody. But some of the statistics that you see, the quality and the complexity of the investigations has increased some. And I don't really have a way to statistically show that to you, but just take my word for it. Things are going well. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief. Mayor's report. Mayor Evans.
Couple employment issues. We are currently interviewing for a tree trimmer. I mentioned that the last meeting, just so the public would know it was out there. We did receive quite a few applications, and they're in the interview process on that. Also, we recently hired a full-time labor, I forget what it's called, to work at the cemetery. So be starting next week. So now, for the start of spring, we have 2 full-time workers and a full-time supervisor there at the cemetery. And soon we'll be taking applications for the seasonal help. We'll hire several seasonal help to mow and weed eat there. The cemetery is going to be taken better care of this summer than last. We had some issues there last, and it's going to. I want council to know it's going to be taken better care of this year. Also, coming ahead of the next council meeting will be longtime city mechanic Greg Oliver will be retiring. So I will probably try to get him here at the meeting. Even his retirement is official at the end of March, but he's actually going to stop working like the 23rd or something ahead of our next meeting. But I'll try to get him to the next meeting. Knowing Greg, he's probably not going to show up.
No.
We'll try anyway. But Greg, I mean, since I've been here, he's a great knowledgeable mechanic, and kind of hate to see him go. And today was his birthday too. So regarding projects, try to make this quick, but we got a lot of projects going on. I want to highlight a few of them tonight because you've heard us talk about them before. Our Mitchell to Wood Street Sewer Improvement Project that we have funded. We did a final review on the drawings, the blueprints today, with the engineer. So it's ready. It'll be going to Whitaker, right?
Right.
The guy who administers the job for the CDBG grant money that we got to do that with. That's replacing a line, replacing a bunch of manholes up in the Mitchell Street down through that subdivision to Wood Avenue where it ties into a main. A lot of old bad sewer lines to help stop the infiltration of rainwater. That'll be out to bid early this spring. Hopefully we can find a contractor, and hopefully they'll be able to get the pipe and materials to do that with. Also, the Mill Street Sewer Extension that we received the ARPA? Yeah, the ARPA funds. We received $1 million to start that project. Earlier this week, we did final reviewings on the drawings for that project. And when we do the review, we bring the engineer in, and we bring all three of our supervisors that work in that area in water and sewer, NGIS. So I was pretty proud today. The engineer said that, and he does hundreds of these projects all over. And he said we're not used to this kind of involvement and people knowing what's going on, and with the project. And so we're trying to make sure not only are we doing the right project, but our people, that we're doing the right thing to fix the real problems and not just spending money. So that's the Mill Street Sewer Extension. It also will be out to bid this spring, probably a little later than the one on Mitchell Street. The High Street Bridge has been in the works for a couple years now. That bridge replacement, it is still supposed to happen this summer. ODOT is in control of that project, the schedule. I know it had been moved back previously, but it is still on the books for approximately June or July start. It is actually supposed to start before the end of June, which is ODOT's fiscal year. The couple smaller projects. Last month, our office applied for an ODNR grant for some improvements out at Hammertown Lake. I almost hate to go public with these because you never know whether you're going to get them. We applied for a kayak launch out there for a grant to cover that. Last week, we submitted a capital bill project through our state representative to try to make further improvements at the Hammertown on the boat ramp and a dock and some handicap parking and sidewalks and stuff to where to make access to a new boat ramp with a dock area to make access in and out of the lake more popular. I know you all, or more easily. I know if you all like me, you constantly hear about improvements needed at Hammertown. So two big grants we've applied for in the last month to make improvements out there. Hopefully we'll get them, but you never know. But we worked with an engineer on both of those projects too, ahead of submitting, because we submit a lot more thorough, better presented application when we do that. As far as the designs are kind of already there, the estimates are coming from an engineering company, so it makes it look like a ready to go project, and that helps you a lot with grants. Still working. We had mentioned that we had received a small grant last year for some improvements up at the pool for in the skate park, and we're still trying to access that, find out where to get those items that we're going to put in there. We still hope to get done. Time's slipping away, but we still hope to get that in there this summer. I'm sure you remember that. And also this week we submitted, we had worked with a local engineer actually, and submitted to the state some drawings to add a couple shelter houses up at the pool and park. We had talked about those previously when we did the budget work. We put some money in there for them this year. So we submitted for them to get state approved plans for them this week. Speaking of the pool, Kaylee Fawkes this week or last week agreed to come back and manage her pool again. So she's done a wonderful job up there for years, and I'd heard a rumor that she wasn't coming back, but she is, and thank goodness we need her there. She's outstanding, and so glad to hear that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. Next, Mr. Swikammer.
I do want to follow up on the mayor mentioned seasonal help. We are able to start taking applications now for anyone interested in applying to the city for seasonal help. Most people think that is just the summer help where we have high school students that may be interested, but we have a lot of mowing that needs to occur prior to school letting out and after school goes back into session. So anyone out there that's interested in seasonal work, that doesn't mind helping mow, weed eat, and so forth, we would love to see an application. That's usually maximum 29 hours per week, a maximum of 19 weeks. So we do have to rotate multiple individuals through in order to still maintain the seasonal status as well as cover the full mowing season. Council also had asked last time around the possibility of moving to more electronic, using iPads or some other type of devices versus so much paper. I do have some quotes to what it would start to get into that process. Each iPad, with the configuration we believe that it would be required, this is for a 10.2 inch pad, $333.47. The AutoBox Defender case, so that it has some rigidity to it, $72.99. And then just an annual upkeep, upgrades around $78.01. So the initial cost would be right around $500 per, and then about $80 to $100 thereafter to, if you want to look at going to an all electronic method. And this would be a system that the IT could configure in a way that keeps from getting corrupted, keep people from clicking on something that they shouldn't and letting it infect the city and stuff. So I like that you guys take that one for consideration if you want to look further down the path on that. Also, there was the question that came up earlier around the one-way street, and I do now, I reach out to, as he mentioned, to both ODOT and to the county engineer's office, and they gave me the individual or the firm that they have do their studies. It's Carpenter and Marty Transportation. The name may sound familiar. About a year and a half ago, we used them for another study. And if the Police, Fire, and Traffic Committee would like to get together to discuss what goes into these studies to determine where lights can be removed throughout the city, I got some quotes, and I can review the process with them at that time if that's something that the committee wants to take up. Theoretically, IORC, you're not supposed to, or high traffic, excuse me, you're not supposed to be putting up or taking down permanently until a study's done. So that's why we haven't taken any additional action over at the intersection right now. So I need to determine if the committee does not want to have conversation around this. I guess we'll just go back and we'll have to put the lights back up, but we'll never also be able to remove any of the other lights that we had talked about on some of the streets, like where Kennison School and so forth was. It's no longer there, and those lights, and so there's got to be a traffic study done if you want to remove some of those, and that's why I'm asking if the Police, Fire, and Traffic Committee want to partake.
I'm going to talk to the chief sometime and then see where we can go with that.
Okay. So
'Cause
until.
we got a meeting next week, the 28th.
Okay. So until that happens, I'm not going to have an answer for you until we can.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How are you gonna do a fair street study when the street's already designated one way, there's no light there?
Well, what they would do is volume of traffic.
But there's no traffic going through the one way. Other streets, any other street here in town, you can take lights out, just put stop signs up, it doesn't affect the flow of traffic. This one it does.
Oh. That's why we'll bring in an organization that this is their profession.
Any other questions for the service director?
Mr. President.
Mr. Peters?
In the Board of Control minutes, number 1, it says Sexton's excavating for cleanup at City Garage. I had a couple people reach out to me. That's not my ward, but said I would ask. There's like just gigantic piles of concrete and stuff everywhere down there. What's the plan for that?
That's
That's gone.
Like, all of it's gone? Every bit of it?
Every bit of it.
All of it?
All of it.
Looks real good.
Make my job really easy. Thank you.
We have also secured at least one for sure, possibly 2 other locations, so that when we do the demo work, as we're putting in curbs, gutters, sidewalks, whatever it may be, it would probably only be overnight type activities. Let's say we got a water line break and we can't get to one of these locations, but during the day when we're doing this, we're going to be able to take it and dump in a different location.
I'll relay the message.
I would like to add on that we determined last fall, I don't know who determined, David, Roy, somebody determined that this was just getting too much down there, because it was looking bad, and it was all meant to be a temporary area, and it had been a temporary area since we had been here, since prior to us arriving here. And, but we didn't do anything here in the fall once we decided, we're gonna clean this up. We didn't do anything in the fall because we had a few people actually were coming in there and taking some of it. They wanted it. So we were letting it take it. But it was very clear that if we let that happen, it probably would never get cleaned up if that was our only way of doing it. So that's why we hired them to come in, and there was like 80 loads approximately of a big tandem dump truck that went out of there. So it was a lot, and all that areas in the flood plain, sorts, flood, whatever flood. One of the areas of flood, So we wanted to get it done, and we did. We've been making a big push to clean up that area over in there, just like we all over town. We can't be forcing other people to clean up and not doing it themselves.
I gave you a layup there. You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the service director? Hearing none, then we'll move on to the next portion of our meeting, and that would be into the ordinances and resolutions. Mr. Spikehammer.
Yeah, I am going to come back with another one. In case you guys have heard or do hear, there may have been some questions around the Cambrian parking along Bridge Street, and whether or not, it was set forth back in 1984 by Ordinance 7-84 that the Broadway parking along that side of the Cambrian was set aside for them by ordinance. The ordinance was never codified. We had a heck of a time finding it, and so we do have a copy of it. I do have a copy of it. Cindy, I would like for us to consider getting this one codified as well, so we don't run into this in the future. And this also talks about the Main Street parking as well. So I know it's been, depending on where you've been and who you've talked to, for some people it's a hot topic. Others may not have known anything about it, but there was an ordinance in '84 that set forth those guidelines.
Ms. Colby?
So is that on Main Street too, in the front of it? Can they park there?
No, the parking is on Broadway Street from Main to Water. That was what was given to the Cambrian during the
Okay.
Cambrian project.
And I will say that as one who has heard from a couple business people in that area, one about the issue of it, and there are folks trying to find, parking. It has been a sore spot with a few. And then I think there was some discussion that we had in regards to the snow and the snow plowing that the city was doing on Main Street, and they were getting hemmed in there because cars were not being moved. And so it's, I think, much appreciated that there was some discussion, and that has kind of rectified itself a little bit. I appreciate it.
There's signs right out back of the
Okay, so we will move on to ordinances. We'll start with our only ordinance for the evening, and that will be ordinance on third reading. That will be ordinance 722. Ms. Kuhn?
An ordinance amending zoning regulation text in Chapter 2, adding a new O district for open space, recreation, and museums.
Discussion. Roll call, please, Ms. Kuhn.
Foster.
No.
Andera.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree. Bach.
Yes.
Ordinance 722 is duly adopted. We'll move into the resolution. We'll begin with Resolution 822. Ms. Kuhn?
Resolution authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into an agreement with S&S Engineers Incorporated to complete the engineering services for the Mill Street Sewer Extension Project and declaring an emergency.
May I get a motion to adopt Resolution 822 as presented to council? Mr. Peters, is there a second? Ms. Colby? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. Mayor, would you like to speak on this?
This is strictly council giving me authorization to sign a contract with that S&S Engineering, who is designing and administering the Mill Street sewer expansion. That's all this is.
Okay. Other comments, discussion?
Where are they out of, S&S?
They have an office in Athens, or did Athens, and I think the main guy is out of Charleston, West Virginia.
Okay, good.
Mr. Swackhammer, where are you going?
So that we don't have to hold up bid and stuff on this, I'd like to move this project forward. If the council would consider passing it as an emergency so we can move forward.
Mr. Newkirk moved to suspend the rules. Is there a second? Mr. Foster? Roll call.
Foster.
Yes.
Andera.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree. Bach.
Other discussion?
I would like to say, good job on this. This is much needed. So, everybody who was involved in it, just at least even considering it, appreciate it.
Other discussion? Ms. Kuhn?
Foster.
Yes.
Andera.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree. Bach.
Yes.
Resolution 822 is duly adopted. Next, we'll move on to Resolution 922. Ms. Kuhn?
Resolution establishing membership of the Tree Commission for the City of Jackson, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
May I have a motion to adopt Resolution 922 as presented to council? Ms. Colby? Just a second. Mr. Peters? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. Discussion. Mayor?
We talked about this even last year. By ordinance, the city has a tree commission, and Joe Kirby told me I had to fill it because I wasn't going to. And, so I guess we could have just done away with the ordinance. And then actually, a couple of our citizens heard me talking about it at council and called and volunteered to serve on it. So I thought, okay, we'll go ahead and name it. And so, are the names on here, or do I need to tell you who it is?
They're on here.
Okay. Well, by ordinance, Service Director Swackhammer is on it, and you guys had previously approved, I think, anyway, or I'd mention it to you, having Harold Dukirk representing council on it, and then as 3 citizens of Jackson appointed by me. Bryn Stepp was the one who called me and volunteered her and her friend Beverly Ondera to serve on it. So thank them for their service. And then, like so many of our old stuff, I don't know, it just kind of surprises me, the way old ordinances stuff are written. The 3rd member of my tree commission appointed by me had to be the opposite party of me. So so Crystal Finch, I was able to convince her to serve as the opposite party of myself member. Mr. Swackhammer, he will manage this committee. He will be the liaison between them and myself and you guys. Although this has been on the council or on the ordinance for 40 years, it hadn't been used in a while. I don't know how long. The appointments are staggered, but I don't think there were any leftover members even. It's 3-year terms, but they're staggered. We got an emergency clause on it, and you might think that's crazy for something that hadn't been here in a long time, or even the need for it. But we put it on there because we're getting ready to, I'm gonna tell you, Dave. We're getting ready, as you guys know, we're getting ready to do some curb improvements and paving on Morton Street, where it's badly needed. But there's a lot of trees in the way. And Swackhammer asked me for permission to take them out, and I said, okay, but I want you to run it through the new tree commission first. Not that they have a vote, but they are there to, their role is really to advise and make recommendations, whether it be to the administration or to council about trees. And my plan for them is to help us come up with a plan to start planting trees back. The city has a lot of trees that are either the wrong trees or they're planted in the wrong place, the wrong type of trees are planted in the wrong place, or both. And there's a lot of trees that still are causing the city a lot of problems, whether it be with damage to curbs and streets or damage to storm sewers. The biggest problem is damage to sanitary sewers. We got so many sewer mains and sewer laterals in this city that are full of tree roots, and it's a real problem. Some of them, if they're on private property, not so much. Is it our thing to deal with? But the tree commission is for all trees on city property or city right-of-ways. So we got a lot still needs to come out. We've taken several out, as you know. But I'd like to work with the tree commission to try to reestablish the right kind of trees in the right area. And so that's kind of our charge for them, as well as helping us determine options and things when it comes to areas where they need to come out. So with that work coming up soon, we thought we'd go ahead and ask you guys. It's not a big, it's naming a tree commission, so we thought maybe you could do that on first reading too. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Other questions or discussion? Is there a motion to suspend the rules? Mr. Carroll, Mr. Newkirk? Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Colby? Roll call?
Foster.
Yes.
Ondera. Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree.
Yes.
Bach.
Discussion? Ms. Coon?
Foster. Ondera.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Crabtree. Bach.
Resolution 922 is duly adopted. Moving on to Resolution 1022, Ms. Coon?
Resolution of the Legislative Authority of the City of Jackson, Ohio to enter into a contract for vision, dental, and life insurance coverage with the Guardian Life Insurance Company administered through People's Insurance, Jackson, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Could I get a motion to adopt Resolution 1022 as presented to council this evening? Mr. Ondera, is there a second? Mr. Crabtree? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Discussion, Mr. Swackhammer.
Yes, one of the additional handouts that Cindy passed out was from the City of Jackson Employees Health Insurance Committee, dated for March 10th of this month. And on the back is the individuals that were present as we actually put the insurance out for bid. And we had the bid opening, they reviewed the bids, and this was the recommendation put forth by that committee for the city insurance for the next term.
Other discussion? Mr. Reed.
As far as counsel for both of these, the last time around, this wasn't bid. It kind of got into a crunch situation. The administration got it out to bid this year, but we're still ending up in the same crunch situation because we have to provide it, and it needs to be taken out this month also. So this ordinance and the next one could be passed emergency. We need to keep the system whole going forward. It is a guarantee of the unions. It really has nothing to do with percentages, and that was where they're trying to justify or change back and forth and get everybody on the same line. This won't affect that, but this is the rates for the insurance, and even the people bidding, looking at it, said what you've got, we can't touch, basically. We would stay where you are. So that was good to come out of the committee. I didn't attend that part of it, but that was what was spoken, that we still have the best deal for pricing.
This has
Thank you,
been
Mr. Reed.
for about 8 years now, right?
We are finishing up 6 years with them right now. We compared, an employee of the city grabbed the county's insurance and compared what they were paying, well over $1,000 a month per employee more. So even when your percentages are considered in, this is the best deal that you can get as far as out there that we know for the city.
Other discussion?
Motion to suspend the rules?
Mr. Rondero? Second by Mr. Newkirk. Ms. Coon?
Foster.
Yes.
Rondero.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk. Crabtree. Bach.
Other discussion? Ms. Coon?
Foster.
Yes.
Rondero.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk. Crabtree. Bach.
Resolution 1022 is duly adopted. Next, we will look at our final resolution for the evening, and that's Resolution 1122. Ms. Coon?
Resolution of the Legislative Authority of the City of Jackson, Ohio to enter into a contract for health insurance coverage with the Michigan Conference of Teamsters Welfare Fund of Detroit, Michigan, and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 1122 as presented to council this evening? Mr. Rondero, is there a second? Second by Mr. Newkirk. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Discussion. Mr. Swackhammer.
Yeah, as Mr. Reed mentioned, this is the health insurance portion of the dental vision that was part of the other one, life insurance, that was the first one. This is just a continuation, same committee, same review.
Other discussion?
Motion to suspend?
Mr. Rondero, motion to suspend the rules. Is there a second? Mr. Newkirk? Ms. Coon?
Foster.
Yes.
Rondero.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk. Crabtree. Bach.
Yes.
Other discussion? Ms. Coon?
Foster. Rondero.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk. Crabtree. Bach.
Resolution 1122 is duly adopted. Thank you, council. Looking at correspondence, I don't believe there was anything that came to us since our last meeting. So next I would move on to old business. Do anyone in council have any old business to be brought before council?
One item.
All right, Mr. Foster.
Railroad, which whoever owns the railroad or whatever, if you're looking into Carr Street crossing, maybe working on that.
And not since the paving project last year that came off of Evans.
Okay. Seems like it's rough.
Okay. We'll have to reach out to the owner and the operator of the railroad.
Okay.
Any other old business for discussion? Hearing none, no one else signed up. Mr. Antler to speak this evening. New business to be brought before council. Mr. Swackham.
Yeah, I'd like to schedule a tree commission meeting at 5 PM on the 28th.
Here?
Here.
Okay. All right, council is available. Chamber?
I will probably take them on site, John, to be honest with you. So we can go out and look at Morton Street, so we can make a decision, so we can move forward. Yeah.
You'll have to rent the senior citizen bus.
$5.
Well, and I can tell you this, in 40 years, she hadn't let me cut a tree down yet, so good luck.
What did you do to me, Mayor?
So 5 o'clock, the tree commission meeting. We'll get that on website? Okay. Anything else, new business, to be brought before council? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Bott, is there a second? Ms. Colby, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you, council.